We've been following reports this week that the Trump administration is detaining children as young as 1 year old in hotels before deporting them to their home countries, using the coronavirus as a reason to immediately expel those seeking asylum. Late Friday night, our colleagues at Telemundo shot this exclusive video that appears to show children being transferred out of the Hampton Inn Hotel in McAllen, Texas. Earlier this week, at the same Hampton Inn Hotel, viral video surfaced as immigration lawyers for the Texas Civil Rights Project tried to reach the detained migrant children before being pushed into an elevator. Hilton Hotels released a statement Friday confirming reports of migrant children being detained at the McAllen facilities, adding, quote, "This is not activity that we support or in any way want associated with our hotels." With me now, Lindsay Tozlowski. She's the executive director of the Immigrant Defenders Law Center. Also with me, Jacob Soboroff. He's an NBC News correspondent and author of the New York Times bestseller, Separated: Inside an American Tragedy. All right, Jacob, first, what can you tell us about the children that were being held in these hotels?
Well, frankly, I can tell you more about what I don't know than what I do know. We've asked ICE and the ACLU, who has sued the government along with the Texas Civil Rights Project, about where those children are, the children that we saw in that footage from Telemundo we're looking at on the screen right now, and where they were moved to. Were they moved to another hotel? Were they moved to the custody of the Office of Refugee Resettlement? Were they deported or expelled is the more accurate term? And ICE will not answer those questions, and the ACLU does not at this hour have the answer to those questions. And what lawyers will tell you, lawyers just like Lindsay, will tell you that those hotels are being used as holding areas to expel children who have come to this country by themselves immediately without the legal protections, the due process protections the United States government is supposed to afford them. And that is the crux of why immigration activists and attorneys are so upset at what you're looking at right now on your screen.
Lindsay, help us understand how this fits into the larger conversation we've been having about changes to asylum rules, the conversations we've been having about keeping migrant children with their parents. What are you thinking as you watch this footage?
Well, this footage is terrifying, and my heart just breaks for these children who I imagine are incredibly scared and confused about what's happening to them. They're essentially being held incommunicado in hotel rooms as another level in the Trump administration's campaign to completely dismantle asylum protections for everyone, but, really focusing particularly on unaccompanied children. It's scary to me to think of these kids sitting in these hotel rooms with government subcontractors with no transparency. We've received reports from our network partners letting us know that children are held for weeks at a time, sleeping on floors in overcrowded rooms. None of this is there to protect children. This is our government putting them at risk. In places like Office of Refugee Resettlement shelters, there are rules that are meant to protect children from sexual abuse, from being exploited. And in this situation, there is just no indication that any of those rules that government agencies should be following are being followed. And I think looking at that footage of those children being shuttled out of a hotel in the middle of the night, it makes me, frankly, very afraid for their safety.
Jacob, Monday, big deadline. ICE has to release children who are in family detention facilities. As we were coming to air, some breaking news on that story. What's the latest?
I'm glad you brought that up, Alicia. So Judge Dolly G here in California had ruled that the Trump administration must release children detained in ICE custody. And that's a different setting than we were looking at with these children held in a hotel because of the explosion of the coronavirus pandemic there. And Judge G has just issued a ruling, and I want to make sure I get it right. You're looking at it on your screen. She has denied the administration's request to delay the deadline to release these children. They are held in ICE family detention, of course, with their families. And she says that ICE has the discretion to release the detainees, quote, as this court has ordered time and again, and states, quote, there will be no family separation without parental consent. And of course, that was a big worry that the government was using negotiations about this deadline and about a waiver that would be involved in the release of the children from ICE detention to separate parents and children or hold the parents and children indefinitely in ICE detention. There's a lot of conversation about how family separation is still ongoing. This is a possible way in which the Trump administration can continue to separate families. And the judge has been very clear here. There will be no family separation without the consent of parents. ICE can release these parents and children together immediately, as we're talking right now, if they wanted to. And now it's up to the federal government, up to the Trump administration, to release these children from detention by Monday, as the judge has ordered.
Lindsay, there's so many immigration stories happening in real time now. Also, you have immigration attorneys threatening to hold the Trump administration in contempt for not following a judge's ruling and to resume accepting and considering new DACA applications. You have this back and forth about the census. When you look at this big picture, what does it tell you about this administration's priorities in the run-up to November's elections?
It tells me that the Trump administration is doubling down on cruelty towards immigrants. That's been the hallmark of every single change that they've made to immigration policy. And speaking specifically to what Jacob was just talking about regarding this deadline that we have on Monday, the power is in ICE's hands. They have been able and have had the discretion and could have lawfully released these children and these families from the beginning. And they have chosen not to do that. So, you know, on Monday, now that Judge G has said there will be no extension, what we expect to happen is either ICE will do the right thing and release these families, or they will continue to hold them indefinitely in facilities where their lives are in danger, or they will choose to rip them apart. And I think all of the examples you just brought up, how the government has treated DACA, how the government has treated children at the border, all of this indicates to me that when given an option, the Trump administration is not going to do the right thing. And in fact, since Judge G gave her initial order saying these children need to be released, instead of planning for how they could safely release these families, the Trump administration and ICE has continued to add additional families into these facilities where COVID is running rampant. You know, Judge G said these facilities are on fire with COVID, where these children, toddlers, mothers are being held, and the government is pouring lighter fluid on that fire.
Lindsay and Jacob, thank you. And again, Jacob's book is Separated: Inside an American Tragedy. Up next.